Well, hello and welcome back to the CPU Galaxy channel. Yeah, and sorry for being so long quiet now, but the last year was very challenging and stressful to me. And yeah, thanks to all who were writing emails asking me if everything is alright, and those ones who had the patience to wait for new content. Yeah, and here we go. Well, today I have here, I think, the most dirty PCB I have ever considered to clean so far. I found this outside in the wild during a walk on the ground under a bunch of thrown away electronics. And yeah, what immediately jumped into my eyes was this socket and also this 486SX CPU. And I realized that I found a cool ISA card computer, which is definitely worth to have a closer look at it. I don't know if it became that dirty because it was lying outside or it was stored years somewhere in a basement before it got thrown away. But beside all the dirt, we can identify already 8 30-pin RAM sticks and next to it a soldered version of the Intel 486SX CPU. Also an upgrade socket, I guess, to put here an OverDrive or a 487 chip. But before we will go on identifying all the parts, I will give this PCB a nice wash to get rid of all the dirt. I will take two kind of cleaners, this kind of industrial cleaner which I got from a friend of mine for heavy dirt, and for fine cleaning this kind of bath and showering cleaner. Yeah, so I have good experience with these kind of cleaners, and of course you need a brush. Wow, and look at that beauty now, back on my bench. It looks like almost new, back from hell and scrap to my bench here to function again. What a pretty unusual 486 board this is. So and now we have a much clearer view on the things here. On the CPU we can see now that it is clocked at 25 MHz, which is not the real rocket for a 486, but I'm quite confident that this little board could get a nice boost in this upgrade socket if the thing is posting at the end. Then we got here a headland chipset, which is, by the way, my first 486 now with this chipset I have ever held in my hand. Here we got an IDE interface, a floppy interface, and this, what is that? Aha, the pins are directly routed to the ISA bus connector. I think there were some extensions existing to plug here, but it's obviously not a PC104 standard connector. On the side we have a keyboard connector, a parallel and a serial interface. So we don't have an onboard video card, but maybe there was one for this extension here, who knows. Here we can see also some dip switches, DX2, upgrade, 25 and color it's written. So color is clear and it means to connect a VGA color monitor in color. 25 I assume is the clock and right now it's in on position. Upgrade, I guess, is to activate the socket and disable the onboard CPU, and DX2 is, I think, you should enable this here if you put a DX250 or maybe 66 MHz in the socket. Over here we can see the BIOS ROM and next to it the typical soldered RTC module with the battery inside, which is for sure empty already, and it has a date code of 1992, so all 30 years old. For sure the battery is empty. I'm curious what kind of settings this BIOS provides on such an industrial computer. And by the way, typically those kind of computer cards were used in industrial applications. It has also no power connector and the PCB gets supplied through the ISA bus, and for that we will need a special riser adapter card with AT power connector later on for testing. What I'm also realizing now is that we don't have any second level cache here on the board, unfortunately. Level 2 cache is giving a nice boost on a 486, but well, if it is working, we have to deal with just the 8 kilobytes of level 1 cache from the CPU. Let's see. To get this unusual 486 working, I will use this ISA riser board, which contains also an AT power connector and several ISA slots to build up a setup. Then we need a VGA card. I choose an ET4000AX with 1 MB of video RAM, which should do its job nicely with a 486 SX CPU or an OverDrive. Well, and as a boot drive I will use this IDE to CF adapter, where everything needed is already pre-installed. To make this CF card working, I'm using the XT IDE boot ROM, and for that I'm misusing an old network card to load the boot ROM here for our CF card. Yeah, and at the end, if the board is posting, I will try to upgrade it with this nice, pretty DX2-66 OverDrive processor to boost the system. And having a proper sound is also a must, and therefore I will add the sound card as well. I will go for this ESS audio drive with the original Yamaha OPL3 chip. This is a non-PNP card and needs to get set by jumpers. So, then we are good to go, and let's hope that the computer is coming back to life. Everything is set up nicely. Now we have the riser baseboard with the AT power connector, then our video card and the computer card, as well as our IDE C compact flash drive. And yeah, I'm really curious if we can get something out of this setup now. Let's switch it on. Everything is powered up and nothing. Can we hear anything? Nothing. Wow, now I got a beep and we have a pause screen. Yes, this thing is actually working. Very, very nice. Let's go into the BIOS. Interesting, we have here nice colored BIOS, and oh my god, look at that. Look at the date. The 5th of January 2023. I didn't enter this until now, and it seems that the RTC device with the built-in battery is still working. After 30 years the battery is not dead. How cool is that? I've never experienced something like that until now. Okay, the time is wrong, but the date, so come on. I have really never seen something like that until now, that this battery is not dead after 30 years. How cool is that? Yeah, so I don't need to solder here. What can we see here? We have time. Drive A, drive B we can set here. It's actually set to none. Hard disk drive none. This is also fine because we have our XT IDE boot ROM. Base memory 640K, extended memory 7000 something K. Speed select is high. Can we set this to low and high? Yeah. Then we got video display EGA, VGA, mathematic coprocessor. Actually no, because we have the SX CPU. Interesting. So is this everything? So page 1, let's try. We have also a page 2 here. System load, standard, diskette lock. Interesting. Yeah, these kind of features are usual on industrial PCs, that nobody can manipulate something. So system load standard, security features disabled, shadow BIOS ROM system and video BIOS. Cache is enabled, actually only 8 kilobyte cache of the CPU. Shadow RAM system and video BIOS, this is also very good that we can set this here. Serial 1, 2 parallel is disabled. diskette write is enabled. You can limit here also the access on writing a disk or not. Interesting. Disk controlling disabled, so actually we don't have a disk drive installed. Hard disk drive controlling enabled, that's good, and mouse also disabled. Interesting. So do we have another page? No, we have only 2 pages here. F8 system information. What do we get here? We can see here also the processor for the 86 at 25.1 MHz without any mathematic coprocessor. Okay, so I think so far that's everything. F10, exit, just escape for exit, and let's see if this thing is booting. Our video card was also posting here, and nothing. What's going on here? Disk boot failure. Alright, let's give it another try with a soft start. Nothing. What is going on here? Let's check again the BIOS. Everything is as it should be. Let's save the BIOS once, if this is changing anything. Nothing. So why the heck this thing is not working and booting? Maybe something is more wrong here with the connection. Sometimes when you're installing cards without this frame where they can get fixed by a screw, it might happen that they don't have a proper connection in the ISA slot, and therefore this can be also now the case. Let's give it another try. Yeah, and we get again our post screen here. Everything seems fine so far. I hope this was just a bad contact here. Yes, now we get our XT IDE boot screen, and the system is booting straight away into DOS. Very, very nice. Baked to life, this industrial computer is working here on my bench. Nice. Well, then let's first go with check-it to see if everything is working properly. So usually I go always here for tests and making a quick test here on the system board. So everything is passing, DMR controller, interrupt controller, and all the other stuff. Benchmark. Let's see what we can get here. We get here 12,054 dry stones, and I don't expect much here now for the mathematic coprocessor because we don't have anyone. It's 226.6 kilo wet stones. So very nice. The board seems working properly. Let's check also system information, what we can get here. It's also showing 486SX at 25 MHz. And for the CPU speed, we get a value of 54, which I was expecting for 25 MHz for 86. That is pretty nice. In speed Swiss we get here 9.41 for our CPU benchmark, which is also the normal value for 25 MHz for 86. And here we can clearly see our 8 kilobytes of level 1 cache, and then just a straight curve here for the normal memory bandwidth. Very interesting. Everything is working fine so far. At 3DBench we get a final score of 18. I'm curious if we can upgrade the system here with the OverDrive processor, how much improvements we can gain here also later on. Let's check also Doom. Of course, Doom is not that playable on a 25 MHz for 86, but nevertheless I would like to see how much frame rates we can get here out of this, yeah, let's say very uncommon setup. And actually it's a good feeling to rescue something which was lying out somewhere in the ground, supposed to get scrapped, and now it's working here back on my bench. Yeah, and at the end we could reach here 11 frames per second, which is absolutely not playable at the end, but I'm very curious what we can gain here if we can really put here later on our DX2 OverDrive processor. So I think this system is working really nice so far, and it's time to check for our upgrade. So then let's put the OverDrive processor in the upgrade socket. You always need to consider these kind of sockets. You can put the CPU in the wrong direction in, and then everything is quickly destroyed. So typically the socket has here a flat edge, or here also an additional pin, and this needs to get aligned with the flat edge here from the CPU, or also indicated with this small dot here. So checking that it's well aligned, then a little bit pressing, and it should fit nicely in the socket. How cool looks that? We have a 486 SX CPU soldered here on the board, and this nice overdrive processor now. So on the dip switches I will also switch this one where 25 is written to off. So I expect here to get now 33 instead of 25 megahertz of base frequency. Upgrade we will switch on, and DX2 is the question, because we are not using a DX2, actually it's an overdrive, but still a DX2 as well. I will also switch this on. So now we are good to go, and we should get here a nice performance increasement. 66 megahertz instead of 25 in the CPU, and we get a nice floating point unit as well here. So everything is installed again. We have here our overdrive processor. I also installed here our nice sound card, because at the end we would like to play also some games nicely on our setup. Then here we go. And we get again our boot screen, which is already a good sign. And let's see what is happening. We get here now an error message: mask coprocessor added or removed, run setup. So obviously the computer is recognizing the overdrive processor, and here we can see already mask coprocessor. Yes, that is very good. So F8 for system information, and also here we can see our 486 clocked at 67.1 megahertz, and also the coprocessor is detected here. Very, very nice. So our boost is actually working on this motherboard. Well, then let's save here the BIOS, and booting straight away again into DOS. Let's start first with checkit. Also here the floating point unit is getting detected for the 486. It's very good, and let's see. Maximum performance level reached for the benchmark. That is good. Instead of 12,000 dry stones, we get here now 33,609 dry stones for the 486 at 66.6 megahertz. Also for the floating point unit, maximum performance level reached. That's nice. 11,392 kilo whetstones instead of 200 something we got before without the floating point unit. So this is now really a nice boost for this little industrial board. Norton system information is also detecting everything nicely, and I expect here 144, and yes, we get also this here. Actually 144 in the Norton sys info is actually the value for a really good setup for a 486 DX2-66. Let's see what we get in landmark here. Also nice for the video card, we got 4636 characters per milliseconds, which is already also a very good value for an ISA video card. Also SpeedSys is detecting nicely the 486 DX2 at 66 MHz, codename P24 at 0.8 micrometer. Well, here also 25.78 now for the CPU score, which is also in the range of a DX2-66. And here in our graph we can also nicely see again our 8 kilobytes of level 1 cache, and here a continuous measurement for the normal memory throughput, which is actually not that bad with 35 megabytes per second. Also 3D Bench is coming up now with 35 instead of 16 I think we had before, which is also a nice improvement to the SX 25 MHz processor which we were using before. And now of course we need to check what can we get here now in Doom. It's somehow a strange feeling, a good feeling for me to get something from the scrap repaired, nicely cleaned and now playing Doom on it. And at the end we got here 3733 real ticks, which are about 20 frames per second, which is already nicely playable here on this setup. And now it's time to check if our sound card is also working properly. Prince of Persia is always here also my reference. And yes, it's working. We got a nice sound from this ESS audio drive. Nice. Yeah, and also the sound in Doom is working, and yeah, the 20 frames, let's say, are really playable here, and you can enjoy a little bit also the game here. Of course, I'm always cheating, so I have the God mode on and endless weapons, but only for showing here. Yeah, also Pinball Dreams 2 is working nicely with the sound card and absolutely playable here on this 486 in case you are able to play this pinball. For me it was very satisfying to find something special which was supposed to get scrapped and bringing it back to life in perfect cosmetic condition and some special upgrades. At the end we got here a very unusual 486 setup with DX2 power and some fun with gaming. I hope you enjoyed it as well, and thank you very much for watching. Your Peter.